Hello, and welcome back to another Cello 101. Today we're going to be working on number 10, Long, Long Ago, by Bailey, out of the Suzuki Cello Book. So, we have made the transition, if you look back, we've made the transition from the key signature of D sharp, or not D sharp, of D, I apologize, with C sharp and F sharp, into the key of G, which only has F sharp. So, generally, to try to get a handle on where and how things are sitting, I like to start with a couple scales. So let's go ahead and just do a G major scale. The fingering will be open, 1, 3, 4, open, 1, 3, 4. So we'll only do a one scale, or a single octave scale. So let's go ahead and start that. 1, 2, 3. So let's go ahead and do that one more time, but this time so we have the same fingering as the D major scale, which was open 1, 3, 4, open 1, 3, 4, just up a string. Now it's just down a string. So when you're looking at what the actual notes on the strings in the natural position is going to be, well, starting from the low C string, which we will get to today. It's going to be C, D, which is first finger, E, which is third finger, F, which is fourth finger, G, which is an open string, A, which is first finger, B, which is third finger, C, which is fourth, D, which is an open, first finger, which is going to be an E, second finger, which is going to be an F natural, G, which is going to be your fourth finger, A, which is going to be open, first finger, which is going to be B, second finger, which is going to be C natural, fourth finger, which is going to be a D. So that's your first position. So when we start dealing with sharps, basically what we're doing is we're taking a note and then modifying it either a half step higher or a half step lower. So let's see. Let's go ahead and do an F, and we'll do an F sharp. So this is a normal F, which is going to be your second finger on your D. But to make it fit the scale, like we need to here, we're actually going to make it a third finger, which turns it into an F sharp, so that it fits the scale. The normal sounding scale has that F sharp in it, but if we only play it as the first position for only naturals, it would sound like this, which doesn't quite sound right. So we use naturals, or we use sharps and flats, occasionally double sharps, double flats, but that's a ways down the road. We use sharps and flats to modify what the sounding note is so that it fits the scale that we're playing in. Or if it's accidentals for color and those kind of things to fit what is written on the page. So let's go ahead and do that one more time. We'll do a single octave G scale, but I'm going to keep going up while you start going down. So it'll be single note at the top and then back on down. So, ready? It'll be O, open, 1, 3, 4, open, 1, 3, 4, 3, 1, open, 4, 3, 1, open. So from there, go ahead and play with me, and we will see how a 2 scale and a 1 scale sound together. So 1, 2, 3, open, 1, 3, 4, open, 1, 3, 4, 3, 1, open, 4, 3, 1, open. So we both should have ended on G's, just an octave, or 2 octaves apart, I apologize. So let's go ahead and move on to number 10, Long, Long Ago by Bailey. And starting at the beginning, it's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3. So let's go ahead and break this down a little bit and kind of look and see what's going on. We've got measures 1, 2, 3, and 4 forming the first phrase. From there, we've got a repeated motif in measures 5 and 6. We have a slight variation in measure 7 versus measure 3. And then in measure 8, we have a half note with a half note rest. That's why there's no other dot head and no other stem in measure 8. In measure 9, we have an introduction of something new. We have a descending figure with the... And then we have a new note, which we haven't really messed with before. Everything below the staff in bass clef on this instrument is going to be on the C string. From there, those 2 low notes below the line are going to be D's, which is first finger on your C. And at least for me, this instrument resonates so well on a D, on a very low D. Super, super nice. Everything else rings. It's a lot of fun. So we have a repeat of basically the exact same figure in measures 9 and 10 repeated in measures 11 and 12. Keep in mind you also do have a dynamic difference. Measures 9 and 10 are both forte. Measures 11 and 12 are mezzo piano. Those are going to be pretty quiet. And then we are back to mezzo forte, which is what we started in measure 13, which is also running straight back to a... Measure 13 and 14 is basically just a repeat of measures 1 and 2. And then 15 and 16, which are our last 2 measures, are a repeat of 8 and 9. Or 7 and 8. Measures 7 and 8, I apologize. So when you stop and take a look at how a lot of this music is set up, you will find that a lot of things are commonly repeated. There might be slight variation. There might be a little bit more... there might be some notes that aren't exactly the same, but the overarching idea is the same. At this level of music, flat out repeating the exact same measures is very, very common because you're still internalizing a lot of that music. You're internalizing a lot of how things are set up and the mechanics of a lot of things. So we don't really have grace notes. We don't really have trills. We don't really have all that kind of stuff yet. A lot of the ornamentation isn't quite here yet. But you do still have... you can kind of pick and you can see and pick apart how the music is put together, so that you can kind of unravel how it works in your head. Very, very simple things like this are a lot of fun to play, but you can also use this as kind of a springboard to figure out how to write your own solo cello lines, and just have a lot of fun with it. I did a lot of this my first 2 years in college, partly because it was course requirement and schoolwork and all that, but also because it's a lot of fun. Being able to get into the nuts and bolts of how something works and why something works, and then being able to take something, take it apart, and then put it back together in a way that you enjoy is a super, super cool feeling. And something that I didn't really get until I hit college, just because of where I was learning music and how things were going and what was going on in my life. So definitely something that I recommend. If you get a chance to look at something as, I don't want to say regimented because there's a lot of music that isn't. If you don't, or if you think that all classical music is a simple call and response or a theme and variation or that kind of stuff, just go listen to Berg. Go listen to Berg. I'm not sure that I would recommend you listen to a lot of it. But being the type of composer and doing the kind of music that Berg does, you can see very quickly that he does not repeat his stuff, and there's a lot to be said for that style of music, but it can grate on the nerves. Anyway, so let's go ahead and start playing the first 4 measures of Long, Long Ago, and we can kind of start breaking this down. So let's take this kind of slow, just so that we can work through it and then get up to tempo. So 1 and 2 and 3 and... Okay, let's go ahead and do that one more time just to work through it. We'll have a repeat with a small variation at the end in the next 4 measures, but let's go ahead and do this one more time. Ready? A little bit quicker. 1 and 2 and 3 and... So let's go ahead and move on to measure 5. We'll play through 8. Keep in mind that the last 2 measures, measures 7 and 8, are going to be slightly different than the first phrase of measures 1 through 4. So a little bit slower to begin with. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, so one of the things that you'll notice is in measure 8, I played the first 2 beats, and then I just took my bow off so that it could ring. Is kind of a nice stylistic effect. And you don't have to, because that kind of chokes the sound and you don't get the nice kind of flowing lines to it. So let's go ahead and play that just a little bit faster, and then we can move on from there. So 1 and 2 and 3 and... Okay, moving on to measure 9. Remember that those low, scary notes at the end of the measure. First finger on the lowest C string. Yes. Anyway, starting again a little bit slower. Keep in mind that we also have a dynamic difference here. So we're starting at forte, and then we're moving to mezzo piano. So keep that in mind as you're practicing through, and then we can move on from there. So starting a little bit slower, 1 and 2 and 3 and loud and... Let's go ahead and do that one more time at the same tempo. So 1 and 2 and 3 and loud. Quiet. And then let's go ahead and finish out the last of the song. And we are back to mezzo forte, so about middle of the road, maybe a little bit on the louder side of the middle of the road. We are going to start a little bit slower. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And let's go ahead and do it just a little bit faster there. 1 and 2 and 3 and... So let's go ahead and put all of that together, and then we can add a brand new string to our repertoire of what we can play. So starting at the beginning, go ahead and play through with me. We're going to take it a little bit slower, and then make sure that we have everything together. Again, keep in mind that in measure 9, we have a couple things going on. We've got the dynamics of the forte, and then in measure 11, we have the mezzo piano. And then at 13, we are back to regular, and then we have the new notes on the lowest string, the D, the first finger on the C string, and just let those ring. So starting a little bit slower, we're going to run through the entire thing, and go ahead and join me this time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Let's go ahead and do it one more time. Go ahead and join me for this one, and we will run through a little bit faster so that we get the gait of the song. So 1 and 2 and 3 and... Okay, so that one definitely adds some new stuff to our repertoire. Thank you very much for joining me. I definitely appreciate the company, and yeah, y'all take care, have a good week, and happy practicing.